Alright guys, so today we're going to be going through the top 10 Shannon replacements in Summoners War. Everyone knows Shannon is the god of all gods. For beginners, mid players, late game players, she is a god. However, that statement is also controversial, and so we're going to discuss some of the replacements. This top 10 list may be controversial for some of you. Some of the mons can be switched around. It is a flexible list. It is the best list that me and my guildmates were able to come up with. It is a very good top 10. Some of them are arguable, you know, maybe one could be flipped with the other, move up a spot, move down a spot. That's up for you to decide, but I'm telling you right now, I'm the Summoners War King, and this list is the top 10 list. The biggest complaint that a lot of players have with Shannon is that she's too squishy. She's a very squishy mon. I like to contend that she does have a very high base defense, especially for a 2-star mon, but it still doesn't change the fact that she is very squishy. And if you want to get her HP up, it's going to cost you in godly runes. Same with the defense. So now we're going to be discussing the top 10 mons to replace Shannon. The rule is they all have to have a defense buff. They don't need the attack buff, but they do have to have a defense buff to be a real Shannon replacement. Number 10 on the list is Randy. Randy has an excellent ready to snipe ability. Increase critical rate and defense of all allies for 3 turns. Kind of a mix between, very similar to a Shannon. So instead of raising attack power, you're getting crit rate. However, there is a catch to Randy. He's a very offensive mon. He is meant for striking and heavy hitting. He combos well with Copper. He does not do Dragon Speed 10. He does not do TOA very well either. He doesn't do dungeons in general very well. He does PvP very well. That's where Randy excels. So he's not the best replacement. That's why he's in the number 10 spot. In the number 9 spot, we have Dwamatef. Dwamatef makes number 9 because he has an excellent ability right here. Defensive stance increases the defense of all allies for 2 turns and decreases the chance of them receiving critical hits. So it doesn't have any attack buffs, but that is top tier, absolutely top tier defensive buff. One of the best in the game. This right here, arguably right now, the best defensive buff in the game, excluding Chloe. Dwamatef has 2 other great abilities. Overpower decreases the enemy attack bar by 30%, and another ability which can lower the attack bar by 30% and stun an opponent. However, these abilities are not strong debuffs. They're not good Shannon replacements, and this is also Firemon. He can't do Giant Speed 10. He's just not quite at the level of Shannon, leaving him at the number 9 spot. There is better. Coming in at number 8 is Mihail. Mihail, check out this ability. Blessing of the Wind recovers the HP of all allies by a whopping 30%. That is equivalent to Bella, and increases their defense for a whopping 3 turns. Very, very good Shannon replacement. Kind of a mix between a healer and a Shannon buff. Very great ability. However, his other abilities are not very good debuffs. They're actually more of an offensive strikes, leaving him at the number 8. First, Holy Cut leaves 3 turns of continuous damage, 30% chance. Not bad when it lands 3 turns as buff, but this is a very offensive ability. It will not, say, put that glancing hit on that Giant Speed 10 boss or that big buff mon to save the rest of your team in survivability. The other ability puts target skill on cooldown. Again, mostly an offensive ability, arguably defensive, but I consider that it's a hybrid. Excellent mon. However, as a Shannon replacement, he only made it to number 8. Coming in at number 7, this was a very tough choice on where to put her on the list. Olivia. This mon is such a beast in many ways. Let's check out her main ability right here. Lockdown. Attacks the enemy 2 times, with each attack decreasing the target's attack by 25%. Decent debuff. Additionally, this attack will increase the defense of all allies for 3 turns. That's exactly what we're looking for. Nice buff, defense buff for the entire team. She also has a very similar first ability, similar to that of Shannon. Attacks the enemy 2 times. Each attack has a 25% chance to increase the enemy's chance of dealing a glancing hit for 2 turns. Almost the exact same as Shannon, except instead of 1 attack, it's 2 attacks, and the percent chance to get the glancing hit is cut in half. It's pretty much the same thing, okay? So she's almost matched Shannon to a T. However, instead of having a speed debuff for the entire team, she has a very unique ability, removes all harmful effects on an ally target and fills up the ally's attack bar. So this, filling up an ally's attack bar, I kind of consider this, it's somewhat similar to a speed debuff on the enemy, but it's a speed buff on you instead. So it's very similar, and she also has the added, kind of like a healer effect of removing harmful effects. So she is, wow, top tier, for sure. Very difficult choice on where to put her on the list. We ended up throwing her in at number 7, and you'll see why as we move through the list. Number 6 is the absolute beastly godly tank known as Tulk. He has a train skin passive, which is what makes him a godly tank. Decreases the inflicted damage by half if the damage is less than 20% of my max HP. So if you're having trouble with your Shannon dying all the time, you're getting pissed off that Shannon's too squishy, well, this guy is the solution. He can do Giants B10, you know, snap your fingers. You really think that Giants can take this guy out? Ain't nobody taking this guy out. You will never have to worry about your Shannon dying ever again. Your team buffer dying again. That defense buff is always going to be there, because guess what else he does? Not only does he increase the defense of your entire team for 2 turns, he also increases the HP of all allies with an energizing roar. Recovery amount is proportionate to his HP max, which is why he's never going to die. You're going to buff the crap out of that HP. He also does have a decent debuff. He can provoke the enemy for a 50% chance. Coming in at number 5 was Basalt. Why is Basalt number 5, and why is he higher than Talk? 1, he does have the Polar Roar, so he still increases the HP of all allies and increases their defense for 2 turns based on his HP. He's going to be very tanky. This guy ain't ever going to die if you tank him well. Here's why he beats out Talk. Hellstomp inflicts damage to all enemies proportionate to my defense and decreases the attack bar by 35%. This is mildly similar to the nice debuff attack that decreases the speed of all enemies that Shannon has. So instead of decreasing the speed, he does something very similar, which is decrease the attack bar, which makes them lowers the amount of turns that they're going to have. And he also does have the provoke debuff as well. So this Mon is very excellent. Talk just lacks the debuffs, okay? Shannon is not just about buffing, Shannon is about debuffing as well. You need a good mix of both to make it high on the list. Number 4 on the list is Megan, because she does have arguably an even better buff than Shannon for the entire team. Increases the attack bar of all allies by 20%. Shannon does not do that. And increases attack bar and defense for 2 turns, where Shannon is 3 turns. So a lot of players like to bounce back and forth, arguing which one is better, Shannon or Megan. They're both good, but for different reasons. For example, you wouldn't necessarily want to use Shannon in Dragons, but guaranteed you will be using Megan in Dragons B10. Next ability is a really, really great debuff. Covers the enemy with poison, removes 1 beneficial effect, and prevents the target from receiving beneficial effects for 1 turn. Something like this is very, very well utilized in Giants B10. That attack buff that goes on that Giant, that can just rape house if you do not deal with that buff. And this is a great way to remove it, and or make sure he doesn't receive a buff during his next turn. And she also does an offensive strike, which leaves continuous damage for 1 turn, so it's not quite a debuff like the glancing hits, but it's a nice ability to have. So Megan here, arguably some people would probably throw her up higher on the list, but wait till you see what's coming. She did make it to number 4, which is not quite that gold, silver, bronze, but she was close. So coming in at the number 3 spot is a very controversial mon here, Emma. I threw her at number 3. I had to do it. I thought long and hard on this. She had to be on the list, and she had to be high up there. I ended up going number 3 because, look at this. Increases the defense of all mons, your entire team, for 2 turns. However, not only does it increase the defense of all mons, it also heals all allies by 30% of your max HP. So she's a healer and a buffer all in one, and it doesn't stop there. It keeps going. It keeps getting better. Her skill also generates a shield that lasts for 2 turns and is equivalent of half of the excessive heal. Like, she is just such a beast on that defense buff for your entire team. You will not find a better defensive buff, and she's also a healer. This is an unbelievable ability. Medical support is one of the top abilities in the game. She had to be on the list, and she had to be up there. That skill is just a blow your balls off ability. Here's the other ability. Again, almost exactly the same as Shannon's current first strike. Attacks enemy 2 times. Each attack has 25% chance to increase the enemy's chance of dealing a glancing hit for 2 turns. Basically the exact same as Shannon, but instead of 1 hit, she's hitting twice at half the success rate, but she gets 2 hits instead of 1. She does have another interesting ability as well, and I kind of throw this in. It's almost a debuff, but it is a nice buff for your team. Attacks an enemy and then removes all beneficial effects on the target. Okay, so it has a nice debuff of some sort on the enemy. If there are 2 or more beneficial effects removed, the attack bar of all allies, _all allies, will be increased by 20% each. So instead of, say, decreasing the speed of the enemy, you're doing a very temporary increase on your own speed by increasing your attack bar. It's a unique ability, and she did make it to number 3 with these abilities. Let me know what you think of that one later, because I know that this is a controversial choice for number 3. Coming in at the whopping number 2 spot is Amesity, the Wind Horse. This guy is a beast. He is underutilized, underrated, and more players are starting to catch on that this guy is one of the best mons in the game. I also have done a review on him separately. He is a beast in all regards. Number 1, he's a Wind Mon. Excellent for Giants B10, and guess what most players use Shannon for? They use Shannon for Giants B10. A lot of players use Shannon for TOA as well. She's very well rounded. She's good at everything, okay? But this is a mon just like Shannon, he's good at everything. Name something and he's good at it. First ability here, Marching Shout, increases the defense and critical rate of all allies for 2 turns, and fully fills up the target ally's attack bar. So the defense buff and the critical rate buff are basically the same as Shannon's defense and attack buff, but instead of attack, you're getting crit rate. Instead of it lasting for 3 turns with Shannon, you're getting it for 2 turns. Not bad. But to make up for that lack of a turn, they're also giving you the ability to fully fill up the target ally's attack bar. That is a full fill, similar to Kona. That means that target is going to get his turn next. He's going next. That is a great buff. Almost, again, similar to maybe instead of decreasing the speed of your opponent, you're increasing the speed of yourself, which kind of does the same thing because now you get to go next. So unbelievably underrated ability. It does not get the credit it deserves, but it is catching on. Players is a relatively new mon, so players are still starting to catch up with just how powerful this mon is. Next ability is even better than Shannon's speed debuff. Attacks all enemies with winds of sand, decreasing 30% of their attack bar. That's the entire team, 30%. 30% is no small feat. And also decreases their attack speed by 2 turns with a 50% chance. Exact same as Shannon, but even better. This guy is better than Shannon. The only skill he lacks in that doesn't beat Shannon is his first attack here, the Overpower. So instead of applying a glancing hit for 2 turns like Shannon would, he does decrease the enemy's attack bar by 30%. Maybe some players would prefer that, but I doubt it. I think the glancing hit is much more powerful, especially when fighting Giant Speed 10. So this guy made it to number 2. This guy is the king of kings in terms of Shannon Replacement, arguably the number 1 Shannon Replacement. There is a reason he didn't make it to number 1. It was a tough choice. He's a 4-star mon. But wait till you see number 1. Here is the number 1 choice. Maybe you think Emissity should be number 1, but let me tell you why he's not number 1 and why Wedgeat is the number 1 Shannon Replacement. Number 1. What's the biggest problem with Shannon? She's squishy. Look at this guy's base stats. This guy's a 5-star mon. Okay, that's why he's number 1. Okay, he's a 5-star mon. Check out his base HP stats. He's starting at over 10k HP. His attack is a whopping 637, and his base defense, I'm not even done yet, his base defense is 790. That's his base defense. This guy means business, okay? He will not die. He's very tanky. So let's go over his abilities to save the best for last. He's got the standard Overpower that all of the Horuses have. Decreases the enemy's attack bar by 30%, not as good as Shannon's glancing hit. However, his second ability increases the defense of all allies for 2 turns and decreases the chance of them receiving critical hits. That is an ultimate buff for your team. It doesn't have the offensive buff that Shannon has, but instead of having that offensive-defensive mix, he's got the pure defense buff. Pure defense, extremely powerful, and very underrated. Mind you, not a lot of people have this mon. This is a very luxurious mon, very difficult to get, but if you happen to get him, you need to feed the devil mons to him, farm the Horuses. Every Horus you get, you throw into him, and buff up his skills. This guy is considered OP by many. Maybe he'll get a nerf at some point. And here's the reason why he's OP. Duty of the Monarch. This is a passive ability. Okay, it doesn't even require Devil Mons to buff up either, so it's very simple to max out. Recovers the attack bar of the ally with the lowest attack bar by 25% and increases that ally's attack power for 1 turn. So guess what? This passive here helps mitigate the fact that his defensive stance does not increase attack power like Shannon does, making the combo between the Duty of the Monarch passive and the defensive stance actually more powerful than Shannon overall. It beats Shannon's buff, and it also at the same time acts as a debuff to the enemy equivalent to Shannon's speed debuff, because instead of debuffing the enemy's attack speed, you're actually making your own mons faster by increasing their attack bar by 25% each and every single turn. This is an automatic effect. You don't even have to do anything. You don't even have to waste any attacks or abilities with cooldown to get this buff. It is a passive. It's unbelievable. This mon is very OP. He's very powerful attack, powerful defense, powerful HP, and a decent speed. He's not that slow. 102 base speed. Not as fast as Shannon, but he sure makes up for it everywhere else. His leader skill is not bad either. Increases accuracy of all mons in the arena by 40%. It's only arena, but it's not bad. I do use a lot of accuracy buffing mons for both Guild Wars and arena myself. So there you have it. This is the number 1 mon. Let me know what you think of the list. Is it the best? Is it not the best? What would you have done differently? Because I'm telling you right now, this is the best list. Please like, subscribe, and I'm going to be doing a lot more of these. See you later.